power of validators. So one important thing is that at any given time, so I'm going to repeat myself, but at any given time there'll be a fixed number of validator slots. And so validators will have to compete for those slots. And because what we want, I've drawn two cunning graphs here. This is a graph of the amount bonded by a particular validator in a particular slot and the slots. And what we want is that the difference between the highest bonded amount and the smallest bonded amount in those slots, in the fixed slots, that the highest and lowest are as close as possible to each other.
I would remove the top and bottom to rule out gaming.
Oh, sure. So it's not about, we don't have to get any metric on this. But we want that to happen, and we want to make sure this is as even as possible. So in order to make sure that there is competition between validators for nominators' bonds, we'll allow, I say we will, okay, this is all research speculation at this point, but one idea is to allow the validators to offer a floating reward amount. So let's just say, for sake of argument, that the inflation rate is 5%. And the amount of reward that a validator is getting can be passed on at whatever rate they want to their nominators. So they can pass on only half of the reward that they're receiving, or they can pass on double the reward that they're receiving. So there's competition there between the validators, which will be based on that raw number, but also their reputation and whatever else, making it so that the nominators are moving between validators, and we could even go to the point where if we can work out what the algorithm is, we could have it so that nominators can say, right, well, I will nominate this validator if they give me this percentage. Otherwise, I'll nominate this validator if they give me this percentage.
So it's a market.
So it's at least a market. It could be some awesome combinatorial nightmare market, which would be really cool. But combinatorics is difficult at the best of times, never mind in a decentralized setup. But the other thing is, we don't want one validator just fucking everyone and just say, right, well, I'm just going to stake all of my stuff. So what we need to do is actually have a reward rate. So the inflation rate needs to be a function of the total bonded amount, or the total amount bonded by chosen validators. And if it gets too high, the reward rate goes down. So if one validator just comes in and says, right, well, I'm a whale here and I'm just going to stake all of it, then they don't get any reward. In fact, no one gets any reward because they've just maxed out the reward curve. So having a convex reward curve is absolutely crucial to this whole system being sustainable in a proof of stake setting. So that's something that will definitely be.
How do you kick the whale out then?
Sorry?
How do you
We don't kick them out. It's just that if they come in, and so the problem we need to avoid is that a small group of whales slowly accumulate all of the DOT tokens, right? We can't have that. So if they try and come in and do that, then there are no new DOT tokens, so they don't get richer.
Could a whale just shut it down then? By just jumping in and making the reward go to 0 and then no one wants to join anymore? So they could just block validation?
No, because, well, I say no, right? So that the system can always be brought down with a large enough force, right? There's a finite economic finality to all of this, and if someone is willing to exceed that economic cost, then there's nothing you can do. But we've got to assume that we have enough validator slots that that's not possible. So we choose all the parameters to say, right, okay, so if it turns out that 10% of the tokens are owned by 0.1% of the thing. They can't come in and just, because they can do a Sybil attack, right? They could just come in and do the slots, but it doesn't. They still have to target the correct amount, and then make available all the other slots to other people. Because if they try and put in too much, then again they won't get any reward.
But I'm saying like they'll accept the fact that they won't get any reward in order to discourage anyone from validating it.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. At some point, if some whales have more than say 30%, then yeah, they can solely fill all the validator slots with enough that it will bring it to 0. But then you've already lost, right? Because you're above the 30% Byzantine limit.
They'll gain more as well, right? Like if they've got, say they have 20%, they'll just thin that out, fill all the slots with like
so this is it. So we've got to pick these parameters such that attack only fill. If they do that Sybil attack and they fill it all in, they only get through 30% of these slots, leaving the other 70% for bona fide actors. I mean, they could still be bona fide, right? But
yeah, for sure.
I mean, what if they just put all of their stake in one slot, bring the reward down to 0, and then the rest of the slots just go empty because no one wants to jump in on a 0?
So
No.
the other slots,
So
the
not
other validators
filling
will still get the reward. Only the one which is having.
Something important I forgot something at this point.
Okay.
Right. As far as the reward, sorry, I'll come to your question in a second. The reward calculation is based on the stake of the smallest validator.
Okay.
Right. So the whole game theoretic play here is focusing in on let's just say there are 100 validators. The whole game theoretic play is for that marginal competition between the 100th slot and the 101st slot. Right. So.
Sure, but then if the whale has this much, and then the 100th slot is way down here because
then they won't get anything as well, right? So if they stick it
if
all
it's going
into
off
one,
the lowest amount, right?
Sorry?
If it's being calculated based on the lowest stake amount, why that then they'll actually still get some financial reward, and then the number one whale will keep getting more money.
But they'll only get as much money
as the lowest person.
As the lowest person.
Yeah, but if they're like orders of magnitude bigger than the lowest, they like guaranteed a place in this pool.
Yep.
But then the smallest person is like what actually determines how much is like having them. Yeah.
I mean, there's a limit here, and that's it. Right? The the same thing happens in real life with proof of work as well, because it's just a resource.
Yeah, I mean, it ends up being the same. Right? Like.
But here, the interesting thing about putting it all on chain means that we can really tweak the game. Whereas, for Bitcoin mining,
they've got no choice.
You can't tweak the game. Eventually, someone will have all the graphics cards. A6. Oh, dear me. So 2000. Whereas here, being it on-chain, we can really tweak all of the parameters. So that's why I think that on-chain proof-of-stake mechanisms have the best chance at creating a sustainable platform. So you get both the direct reward and punishment, which is really important. Direct punishment. You act like this, you get punished immediately, right? If you do questionable behavior on a proof of work chain, maybe eventually the token price will go down, but you've already sold your coins, so it's irrelevant. Whereas on here, it's like, right, you've done something bad, you've lost your bond. And we can really, really tweak the game and focus on things like making sure that the competition at the end for the last slot drives the whole thing. There's a lot to think about there. Sorry, what's your question?
I feel that you may have answered, but I was going to ask about, say, starving out new validators. So it's just even that minimum gets too high that the buy-in price to become a validator with enough stake just stops you from getting new validators. Is that something you're considering or something you're just accepting as reality?
So this is a really important part of it.
Mm.
And so that's why the parameters all have to be chosen carefully, because the interplay between the so I've drawn this dotted line here as a sort of target, right? So we're going to have some notional target, number of dots that we want validators with their nominators to hit, and we don't want it to go too much below that, and we don't want it to go too much above that. And picking that number along with the number of validator slots and this reward rate curve together define the behavior that will emerge. And so picking those needs to be done to address this very problem. And we can work on the idea that we don't expect there to be more than 30% bad actors. Because if we hit that 1/3, then we've lost anyway. So we can pick all these numbers so that at most the bad actors can fill 1/3 of these slots, or 1/3 of the total, whatever it is. I mean, they don't want to just put it all in one, because there's no point. There's once you've gone above this target line, you're definitely not getting any more reward, because the person that comes in on a 100 slot just won't be able to match you. So adding more to your thing, but you can do the symbol attack, and we've got to pick it so that the few whales that hold whatever top percentage of the bonded tokens can't fill more than n validator slots, where n is very much less than 100. But it's tricky, and that's why we're still researching.
So
I think
that.
I think Tron network has this part, but then doesn't have this part. It end up with skewed. It's not average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having the it relative to the minimum bonded amount, fixed number of slots with the reward rate curve, these together look like they'll be enough to make this work. But we still need to sit down and actually go through the maths and go through the proof to it might be that we have to do agent-based modeling and stuff, but I think the maths will get us most of the way, if not all the way. But that's the research team's joy. Cool. Yeah. Sorry.
Awesome. Thank you. Glad I got that.